The day I walked into that courtroom, I already knew I was alone. Not just legally, not just emotionally, but completely alone. The room was cold, gray walls, wooden benches filled with people whispering, judging, waiting for entertainment. The kind of place where lives are torn apart quietly, without anyone caring. And there she was, my wife, sitting on the other side, perfectly dressed, calm, confident, smiling like she had already won. I could feel in my chest that tight, heavy feeling. The kind you get when you realize the person who once held your hand now wants to crush you. She looked at me and laughed. Not loudly, not openly, just enough for me to see it. A small smile, a shake of her head, like I was a joke. I stood there with no lawyer beside me. Just me, my worn-out file, my trembling hands. People whispered, "Is he really representing himself? What a fool. He's done." Even the clerk looked at me with pity. But my wife, she looked at me with victory. She leaned toward her lawyer and whispered something. They both smiled. That smile, it wasn't happiness. It was mockery. And in that moment, I understood something painful. She didn't just want to win. She wanted to humiliate me. What she didn't know was that this courtroom wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning. People always ask how marriages break. They imagine shouting, fighting, doors slamming. But ours didn't break like that. Ours broke quietly, slowly, like a crack in glass that grows every day until one morning it shatters. When I married her, I thought I was lucky. She was smart, charming, ambitious. Everyone said, "You're punching above your weight." I ignored them. I loved her. I worked long hours to build a stable life. I trusted her with everything, my money, my future, my weaknesses. And slowly she changed. She started correcting me in public, laughing at my opinions, making jokes at my expense. At first, I laughed along. I thought that's what love was. Then came the distance. Late nights, locked phone, cold replies. And whenever I asked, she'd say, "You're imagining things. You're insecure. You don't understand how the world works." I started doubting myself. That's how manipulation works. You don't notice when you're sinking until you're already underwater. When the legal notice arrived, I read it 3 times. False claims, twisted facts, stories I barely recognized. She wasn't just leaving me. She was destroying my image, claiming I was irresponsible, unreliable, unfit. She wanted everything. The house, the savings, my dignity. Friends stopped calling. Family looked confused. And then she hired one of the best lawyers in the city. Expensive, sharp, confident. I couldn't afford that. When I told people I'd represent myself, they laughed. Even my own relatives said, "Just settle. You can't win. She's smarter than you." But something inside me refused. Not pride, not ego, something deeper. Truth. On the first day of court, she walked in like a queen. Her lawyer spoke smoothly, confidently. They painted me as weak, clueless, lost. And then it was my turn. I stood up. My voice shook at first. I saw her smile again. That same look, like she was watching a child try to lift a mountain. And for a second, I almost believed her. Almost. But then I remember the nights I stayed awake. The screenshots, the emails, the recordings, all the things she thought I would never understand, never find, never dare to use. She thought I was unprepared. She was wrong. There's something people don't understand. When someone underestimates you, they give you power. For months before the trial, I didn't argue. I listened. I observed. I collected. I learned the law at night, line by line. I watched court proceedings online. I studied how lies fall apart when questioned calmly. And the biggest mistake she made? She thought I was ignorant. She thought I didn't know about the money transfers, the hidden accounts, the messages she deleted but didn't fully erase. I had proof. Not loud proof. Quiet proof. The kind that waits patiently. When I cross-questioned her for the first time, she didn't expect it. She answered confidently until I asked a simple question. Then another. Then one more. Her lawyer objected. The judge allowed me to continue. And slowly, her voice changed. Her answers became shorter. She avoided eye contact. The smile disappeared. Just for a second. But I saw it. Fear. Real fear. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt calm. Then came the document. I placed it on the table. The judge leaned forward. Her lawyer frowned. She looked at the paper and froze. Her face lost color. That confident woman? Gone. The courtroom went silent. No whispers. No laughter. Just settle. You can't win. She's smarter than you. But something inside me refused. Not pride. Not ego. Something deeper. Truth. On the first day of court, she walked in like a queen. Her lawyer spoke smoothly, confidently. They painted me as weak, clueless, lost. And then it was my turn. I stood up. My voice shook at first. I saw her smile again. That same look, like she was watching a child try to lift a mountain. And for a second, I almost believed her. Almost. But then I remember the nights I stayed awake. The screenshots, the emails, the recordings, all the things she thought I would never understand, never find, never dare to use. She thought I was unprepared. She was wrong. There's something people don't understand. When someone underestimates you, they give you power. For months before the trial, I didn't argue. I listened. I observed. I collected. I learned the law at night, line by line. I watched court proceedings online. I studied how lies fall apart when questioned calmly. And the biggest mistake she made? She thought I was ignorant. She thought I didn't know about the money transfers, the hidden accounts, the messages she deleted but didn't fully erase. I had proof. Not loud proof. Quiet proof. The kind that waits patiently. When I cross-questioned her for the first time, she didn't expect it. She answered confidently until I asked a simple question. Then another. Then one more. Her lawyer objected. The judge allowed me to continue. And slowly, her voice changed. Her answers became shorter. She avoided eye contact. The smile disappeared. Just for a second. But I saw it. Fear. Real fear. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt calm. Then came the document. I placed it on the table. The judge leaned forward. Her lawyer frowned. She looked at the paper and froze. Her face lost color. That confident woman? Gone. The courtroom went silent. No whispers. No laughter. Just truth standing in the open. And that's when I realized something powerful. Revenge isn't loud. It's patient. Standing there, without a lawyer, without support, I learned something about strength. Strength isn't shouting. It isn't proving others wrong. It's staying steady while others panic. It's knowing the truth and letting it speak for you. She mocked me when I walked in. But now, she couldn't even look at me. After I placed that document on the table, the courtroom felt heavier. The judge adjusted his glasses and read quietly. Too quietly. My wife kept shifting in her chair. She crossed her legs, then uncrossed them. Her fingers tapped the armrest without rhythm. Her lawyer leaned toward her and whispered something. She whispered back. Fussed. Nervous. This wasn't the confident woman who walked in smiling. This was someone realizing the ground beneath her feet wasn't solid anymore. The judge finally looked up. Not at me. At her. And that look, it wasn't anger. It was interest. The kind of interest that says, something doesn't add up here. He asked her a simple question. Just one. She answered too fast. And that's when the judge stopped her. Please answer carefully. Those 4 words landed like a hammer. I saw it in her eyes. She knew. She knew the story she rehearsed for months was starting to fall apart. People think panic looks loud. It doesn't. Panic looks like silence. She stopped smiling completely. Her shoulders stiffened. Her breathing changed. Her lawyer tried to take control, speaking smoothly, guiding her answers. But something had shifted. The power in the room was no longer on their side. Every time she answered, the judge glanced at the document again. Every time her lawyer objected, the judge listened, then allowed me to continue. I wasn't rushing. I wasn't aggressive. I was calm. And that scared her more than anger ever could. Because calm means control. I asked her about the account. She denied it. I asked about the timing. She hesitated. I asked about the messages connected to it. She said she didn't remember. The judge raised his hand. Do you remember? Or do you deny? Silence. Her lawyer tried to interrupt. The judge waved him off. She swallowed hard. I don't remember. That was the moment. The first crack that everyone could see. Because forgetting small things is normal. But forgetting major financial actions? That's when people stop believing you. I didn't smile. I didn't react. I simply nodded and said, "Thank you," and sat down. Sometimes the most powerful move is knowing when to stop. During the break, people stared at me differently. The whispers changed tone. Not laughter anymore. Curiosity. My wife didn't look at me at all. She stood near her lawyer, speaking fast, her hands moving nervously. For the first time since this started, I saw something real on her face. Regret. Not for what she did, but for underestimating me. And I realized something important in that hallway. She never believed I was capable. Not as a husband, not as a man, not as an equal. And that belief was now destroying her. When the court resumed, I stood again. My hands were steady now. My voice was clear. I introduced the second piece of evidence. Messages. Not emotional ones. Not dramatic ones. Cold. Precise. Dates. Times. Numbers. The judge read them slowly. Her lawyer objected again. This time, the objection failed. The judge looked directly at her. "Did you send these messages?" She looked at her lawyer, then at the judge, then at me. For the first time in months, our eyes met, and I saw something break inside her. "Yes," she whispered. That word echoed louder than any shout. From that moment, the courtroom energy shifted completely. The judge leaned back, listening carefully now. Her lawyer spoke less. Her answers became shorter. Her confidence didn't just fade. It collapsed. She wasn't the one controlling the story anymore. Truth was, and truth doesn't need emotion. It doesn't need performance. It just stands there, unmovable. I could feel it the moment people stopped seeing me as weak. They started seeing me as someone who had been wronged and stayed quiet long enough to prove it. Then came the hardest question, not from me, from a judge. He asked her why certain information was missing from her initial statements. She opened her mouth, closed it, tried again. Her lawyer stood up. The judge stopped him. No assistance. Let her answer. Her face flushed. She spoke, then corrected herself, then stopped. The silence stretched. That silence said everything. Because when lies pile up, they become heavy, and eventually, they crush the person carrying them. I didn't feel happiness. I didn't feel victory. What I felt was relief, like finally being able to breathe after being underwater for too long. For months, she controlled the narrative. In that courtroom, control slipped from her hands, and she couldn't take it back. She wasn't mocking anymore. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't even angry. She was exposed. At one point, she tried emotion. Tears appeared. Her voice shook. She spoke about stress, confusion, pressure. The courtroom listened. The judge listened. Then he asked one calm question. Why was none of this mentioned earlier? She had no answer. Emotion without truth doesn't last long. It fades, just like her performance did. Watching her struggle wasn't satisfying. It was sad, because I remembered who she used to be, or who I thought she was. But sadness doesn't erase responsibility, and love doesn't excuse betrayal. I didn't want revenge. I wanted fairness. And fairness was finally happening. At the end of that day, the judge said something that stayed with me. I advised both parties to reconsider their positions. That sentence meant everything. It meant he saw through the lies. It meant the case wasn't going where she planned. It meant the truth had weight. As we left the courtroom, she didn't look at me. Not once. But I knew. She felt it. The loss of control. The fear of what was coming next. I walked out of that courtroom a different person. Not because I won, but because I stood, alone, against someone who thought I was nothing. And I didn't break. I didn't shout. I didn't beg. I let truth do the work. And it did. That night, my phone buzzed while I sat alone. It was her. Just her name on the screen. No emojis. No attitude. No confidence. The message was short. We need to talk. 7 simple words, yet they carried fear. She had never asked to talk before. She had always commanded, demanded, controlled. Now she was asking. That alone told me everything. I didn't reply immediately. Silence can be louder than rejection. I wanted her to feel what I felt for months. Uncertainty, restlessness, fear of losing control. One sentence stayed in my mind that night. Power changes when fear replaces confidence completely. The next morning, she called. Her voice sounded smaller than I remembered. She talked about stress and misunderstandings. She talked about how court cases ruin lives. She talked about compromise, but she never talked about truth. She said we should end this peacefully. Peacefully for her meant quietly. No exposure. No accountability. No consequences. I listened without interrupting her once. Then I spoke calmly. I will not stop the truth now. She went silent. That silence confirmed she knew the truth mattered. One clear thought repeated in my head slowly. People beg for peace only when power slips away. She asked to meet before the next hearing. Public place. Neutral ground. She arrived early. That surprised me. She looked tired. Not angry. Not proud. Just tired. We sat across from each other quietly. For a moment, she looked like my wife again. Then she spoke. She said she never thought I would fight back. She said she thought I would give up. She admitted she planned everything carefully. That honesty shocked me more than lies. One sentence cut deeper than any insult. She never believed I was capable of resistance. She confessed parts of it, not everything, enough to protect herself. She admitted hiding information. She admitted shaping the narrative. She admitted enjoying my helplessness. That was the hardest part. Not betrayal. Enjoyment. Some people don't just hurt you. They enjoy watching you break. One heavy realization settled inside me slowly. Cruelty feels powerful until truth removes its mask. I didn't shout. I didn't accuse. I simply told her the court would decide now. She nodded, defeated. The final day arrived quietly. No smiles, no laughter, just tension hanging in the air. She sat differently now, shoulders lowered, eyes cautious. Her lawyer spoke carefully this time, very carefully. The judge asked direct questions, sharp questions, questions without emotion. She answered honestly where she had no choice, avoided where she still could. But avoidance only delays truth. One sentence echoed through the courtroom strongly. Facts do not bend to comfort or convenience. The judge summarized everything slowly. Every inconsistency, every omission, every contradiction. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't shame her. He simply explained reality. Reality is harder than anger. Reality doesn't argue back. I watched her hands shake. I watched her eyes drop. The woman who mocked me once sat silent. One clear sentence burned into my memory. Mockery fades quickly when truth gains a voice. The ruling came calmly, balanced, fair, nothing dramatic. But it changed everything. False claims were dismissed. Assets were reconsidered. Her narrative collapsed completely. She didn't cry. She didn't react. She just stared ahead. I felt no joy, only closure. One simple truth settled inside my chest. Justice feels quiet when you have waited long enough. Outside the courtroom, she stopped me. She apologized. Not deeply, not fully, but sincerely enough to notice. I accepted the apology without reopening wounds. Some doors should stay closed forever. She walked one way. I walked another. I never looked back. One sentence guided my steps forward. Healing begins when you stop seeking validation. Before I continue, if you're still listening to this, please subscribe to the channel and comment where you're listening this from so we can relate. Your presence here means more than you realize, because stories like this are not just mine. They belong to everyone who stayed silent too long. After the case ended, life felt strangely quiet. No calls from lawyers, no court dates, no constant anxiety, just silence. At first, that silence scared me. Pain can become familiar. Chaos can feel normal. But slowly, silence turned into peace. One morning, I realized something important. I woke up without fear for the first time. That moment mattered more than the verdict. People around us noticed the change. Friends who once doubted me apologized. Some quietly, some awkwardly. Her reputation shifted, not destroyed, but clarified. Truth doesn't need to ruin lives. It only corrects them. She lost more than the case. She lost the image she controlled, and that loss followed her silently. One sentence explained it perfectly. Masks fall slowly, but never rise again. Winning doesn't fill emptiness instantly. That's something nobody tells you. I went home alone, sat alone, thought alone. Victory felt hollow for a while, because love, even broken love, leaves echoes. I missed the version of her I believed in, not the real one. One heavy realization stayed with me. Grief exists even when justice is served. And that's okay. I didn't tell my story to everyone. I stopped explaining myself. I stopped defending my past. Those who understood stayed. Those who didn't left. Peace arrived when I accepted that. One simple sentence changed my mindset forever. You owe explanations only to your own conscience. I focused on work, health, quiet routines, small joys, and slowly I felt human again. Betrayal doesn't come from enemies. It comes from people who know your soft spots, people who know your fears, people who once promised protection. That's why it hurts deeper. But betrayal also teaches clarity. It removes illusions brutally. One truth stood taller than all others. Not everyone who loves you respects you. And respect matters more than words. People often ask why I didn't strike back harder. Why I didn't humiliate her publicly. Why I stayed calm. The answer is simple. Revenge keeps you tied to pain. Justice frees you from it. I didn't want her suffering. I wanted truth standing. And truth did enough. One line defines my choice clearly. Peace is the strongest form of revenge. Representing myself changed me. It showed me my own strength. Not loud strength. Not aggressive strength. Quiet strength. The kind that survives storms silently. I learned that preparation beats confidence. I learned that patience beats arrogance. I learned that calm breaks manipulation. One sentence defines my growth completely. Silence backed by truth is unstoppable. If you're listening right now, and someone makes you feel small, if someone laughs at your struggle, if someone underestimates your heart, remember this. Being underestimated is an advantage. It gives you space to prepare, to grow, to rise quietly. One sentence is meant just for you. You are stronger than they assume you are. I don't hate her. I don't blame her anymore. I learned from her. Pain became wisdom. Betrayal became clarity. Loss became freedom. The biggest lesson stayed with me. Never shrink yourself to keep someone comfortable. Because the right people never need you smaller. Today I walk lighter. Not because I forgot, but because I accepted. Some chapters end painfully. But endings create space. Space for honesty. Space for peace. Space for better days. One final truth closes this story. Justice may be slow, but it always listens. If this story touched you, if you felt anger, relief, or understanding, then this wasn't just a story. It was a mirror. And maybe, like me, you will walk away stronger than you arrived. Tell me, where are you commenting from? And share with other people also, who maybe need to listen to this story. Thank you for listening.